Welcome to Lesson 3 of Ready for Readiness. In Lesson 1, you learned about the definition of prevention and gained an understanding of the 9 levels of readiness. In Lesson 2, you learned about the Readiness Assessment Model, which will help you to gauge your campus's knowledge about the culture that surrounds relationship and sexual violence prevention efforts. In Lesson 3 of Ready for Readiness, you will learn about the Ohio Domestic Violence Network's Creating Safer Ohio Campuses initiative and how strategic planning for prevention becomes an integral component of building prevention on your campus. The initiative includes the following: assessment, planning, implementation, evaluation, and sustainability. Also, in Lesson 3, we'll cover the 9 levels of readiness more in depth so that you can begin to recognize where your campus might fall on the readiness spectrum. Why is it important to have a unique strategic plan for your campus? That's a very good question. Strategic planning incorporates findings from your campus climate survey and the readiness assessment. In addition, selected strategies will focus on prevention interventions that are culturally relevant and specific to your community. Additionally, we will ensure that each campus is in compliance with or is working to come into compliance with relevant state and federal policy mandates. During the assessment phase of the project, all campuses will engage with 2 types of assessment. One assessment will measure campus climate using a research-based instrument compiled by Dr. Sandra Ortega. Another assessment is the Readiness for Prevention assessment, which will help stakeholders better understand how ready the campus is for building a campus-based prevention system. The findings of both assessments will be presented to each campus so that students, faculty, and staff understand prevailing campus climate, social norms, and readiness for prevention. Then, the Campus Climate Questionnaire will be re-administered approximately 2 years into the plan implementation as an evaluation measure of effectiveness. Once we know the results of the campus climate and readiness for prevention assessments, then it's time to begin strategic planning for prevention. Where each campus is at in terms of readiness is where the work will begin. During the planning phase of the project, ODVN staff and local partner agencies will work with campus stakeholders to review policies and procedures, to strengthen the campus response to relationship and sexual violence, and to plan prevention strategies. Now that a plan has been created for your campus, it's time to move into action. The first action step is to share the plan widely with students, faculty, and staff. The purpose of sharing is to obtain agreement that the plan is sound and worthy of implementation. Once begun, implementation is ongoing. Planned activities across campus combine to become overarching strategies that can be evaluated for outcome effectiveness. Done well, you should expect a shift in campus climate over time to one of increased perceptions of safety. Evaluation as a phase is sort of a misnomer. As the strategic plan is implemented on campus, evaluation should be woven in throughout. Evaluation of activities and strategies, as well as processes and outcomes, will be built in as we build the prevention plan. For the purposes of ODVN's project, Creating Safer Ohio Campuses, evaluation of efforts will be measured by the re-administration of the Campus Climate Survey approximately 2 years post-project launch. It's assumed that 2 years of working diligently on campus prevention will pay off in increased perceptions of safety, as well as shift social norms in a positive direction. Finally, the goal of Creating Safer Ohio Campuses is to build a system that sustains itself using evidence-based and informed practices, campus resources, and community partners. By maintaining engagement in the project with key campus stakeholders, the off-campus community, existing and incoming students, faculty, and staff, sustainability of your campus prevention strategies is achievable. Now that you understand ODVN's role in the project, let's return to readiness. Remember in Lesson 1 we talked about the 9 levels of readiness and the stakeholders that will move the strategic plan into action? Now, we'll discuss activities that correspond to each level of readiness, beginning with awareness. In Level 1 of raising awareness, ideally, Members of the Campus Safety Advisory Board are reaching out to others on campus and talking with them about their views and insights related to relationship and sexual violence. Members serving on the advisory board are also advised to visit other campus communities with successful prevention programs in order to gain an understanding of how to build a sustainable prevention infrastructure. Additionally, members should be contacting friends and potential supporters on campus who might become key influencers. Talking, informing, and sharing your enthusiasm and creativity for this work can be infectious and help you gain allies. In Level 2 of Readiness, the goal is to continuously and systematically raise awareness while maintaining the activities that the campus is already engaged in. Identifying and implementing low-intensity yet visible media campaigns across campus is a great starting point. Ideally, your media campaign is visible enough so that every student, faculty, and staff member sees it, can recognize the message, and begins movement from resistance to awareness. In Level 3, the goal is to promote positive changes for healthy sexuality and relationships as a way to prevent relationship and sexual violence. Now is the time to begin thinking about special events to raise awareness. Students and faculty might come together to conduct informal surveys or focus group interviews to better understand how the community perceives the problem and what they think should be done about it. Use the student newspaper as a venue for disseminating information and articles about relationship and sexual violence and its prevention. Do you notice a common thread here? Continue strategies from the previous levels. This is the mechanism for building prevention, and as activities are layered on, a more comprehensive strategy begins to emerge, especially if they're linked by some overarching framework, which we'll get to in just a moment. In Level 4, you'll want to continue strategies from previous levels unless it's determined through some sort of assessment process that the campus has outgrown their use. At the pre-planning level, your campus should have some idea of concrete activities that you would like to implement as a part of the prevention plan. Continue those planning strategies and include some additional action items such as conducting assessments in adjacent communities, holding focus groups, and listening for and adding new ideas to the overall plan. Remember, the plan should contain and address the outcomes you would want to see on campus, as well as the specific activities that will lead you to those outcomes. With the goal at this step of gathering pertinent information gathered in terms of statistics should become a key part of the front matter of a strategic plan and contribute to a case statement for its importance. Conduct the needs and resources assessment on campus to identify barriers and gaps, allies and facilitators, strengths and weaknesses. Also, work to increase media exposure through local radio and television talk shows. When your strategic plan is complete, that's the time to share it with the campus community and to rally community members to become more engaged in your prevention efforts. Ideally, training campus community members is a key component of any strategic plan, as is conducting campus-wide events geared towards prevention. In Level 7, the goal is to have established campus-wide relationship and sexual violence prevention efforts. Again, as the campus builds from one level and phase to the next, they are not necessarily dropping existing activities. Rather, they're maintaining and expanding efforts that are suggested in the strategic plan. It's important to maintain relationships with and support from campus administrators and others. Now the campus is ready for the introduction of new programs. Increase and further develop media exposure, including social media on campus, and use evaluation data to improve prevention efforts over time. During Level 8, ideally, everyone in the campus community, including survivors, have knowledge of and can access local community services and resources related to intervention and prevention of relationship and sexual violence. In a prevention approach that spans the continuum from primary prevention to tertiary prevention, all previous levels of readiness must be in place and members of the campus community feel comfortable accessing and using local resources. Finally, in Level 9, the community owns its prevention and strategies are in full swing. Campus leaders and stakeholders, including students, have a deep understanding about relationship and sexual violence, its prevalence, causes, and consequences. An ongoing strategic plan that coincides with ongoing evaluation efforts will now guide implementation of prevention strategies and activities, and the strategic plan will be updated periodically as time passes and findings suggest. Ideally, this readiness model is transferred to other issues and used as a framework to create and sustain change. Now that you have an understanding about how this model can be used to build a prevention system on campus, let's dive into the nuts and bolts of conducting the key informant interviews. It is through conducting these interviews that campus readiness for prevention is determined. Lesson 4 will help you better understand the interview process.